Welcome everyone to this new webinar proposed today by PLG Product Live Group. We are very happy to spend the hour with you and thank you very much for connecting to the webinar. My name is Thomas Tribou and I will be your moderator today. For your information, this webinar is recorded and will be available on demand. Today, the topic that we want to share with you very much in the actuality is demystify and navigate generative AI complexity to create new value stream in regulatory affairs. I will now walk you through the agenda of today. I will present very briefly PLG and where we are today in the regulatory compliance space. Then our two speakers will define what is generative AI. We will study opportunities linked to generative AI in regulatory affairs. We will take a concrete example with IDMP gap analyzers, and then we'll try to give some more perspective, studying key success factors, what to do, what not to do, what works, what doesn't work. We will end the session with a Q&A, so feel free to share the questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to share the questions with our two speakers at the end of the session. I'd like to give a few words about PLG and introduce to you our company. PLG is a consulting company specialized in regulatory affairs. We are a group of 1,700 consultants spread all around the world. We cover 150 countries. We have 60 different nationalities among our employees. We are a dynamic young team engaged to provide high quality service to our users. We're very happy to have 55% women in our organization and very happy and proud to be labeled a silver label by EcoVadis. Together, we work very diligently to serve 1,000 customers around the world with our personnel located in 50 different countries and qualified partners in 150 countries. We have a very strong footprint in Europe, headquarters in France. We have an affiliate in USA covering North America and Latin America. We have an affiliate in Australia to give service to the JPAC region. And we also work with delivery platforms located in India, Tunisia, Morocco, Romania, and Mexico. Today, PLG services are divided in 3 pillars: product development, life cycle, strategy and digital, and we cover 4 healthcare sectors, which are biopharmaceutical, medical, nutraceutical, and cosmetics. Product development services are all services prior to marketing authorization, both strategic and operational. They cover CMC, clinical, non-clinical services. Lifecycle services are all services linked to the global rollout and maintenance of products. It includes end-to-end pharmacovigilance, end-to-end regulatory support, and it also includes manufacturing compliance activities that we conduct on-site, outside, and that we conduct at central and local level. The last pillar and the last family of services are digital and strategy services, where PLG help our users with their corporate strategy, with their product strategy, their go-to-market strategy, their business transformation, operational excellence, and of course, digital transformation. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce to all of you our 2 speakers of today, Gabriel Breda, Innovation Director at PLG, and Florian Perem, Digital Innovation Head at PLG. Thank you very much, both of you, to share your insights today to the audience and help us understand better what is generative AI, what it means, and what are the benefits in regulatory affairs and life science. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge today.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for your introduction, and we'll try to do our best today to make a state-of-the-art and propose you some concrete example on this hot topic. Sorry about that. First, to introduce ourselves, I will just introduce what is research and innovation at PLG. We have put in place this department 2 years ago to support the global strategy that Thomas has just presented to you. So this research and innovation department is transversal within PLG to support all activities development and to anticipate the market trends and the market challenges. So the first pillar that Florian will explain in more detail is, of course, the digital innovation and transformation, where we have put in place a digital and AI regulatory factory that Florian will present you in a few minutes. And alongside this pillar, we also work on regulatory science topics related to highly innovative medical products and new modalities that raise questions in terms of assessment of these new products. So we develop partnerships with academic partners and some companies on these topics. And we also build collaborative workshops, collaborative projects within the innovation ecosystems, both at, for example, European level, but also in several countries with innovation partners to be able to support innovation as soon as possible within the product development side. Now, Florian, I let you introduce the digital innovation at PLG. What is it?
Thank you, Gabrielle. So I would like to introduce you the digital innovation team who aims to connect our business logic and business knowledge, the strategy of PLG, the core businesses, with our digital and new ambition to be a major leader in digitalization for our topics. It's made, of course, with talented developers and data scientists under my lead and under the supervision of Gabrielle. We also have access through our network of entities like Pharma IT, who have a big knowledge in cloud computing and cloud infrastructure for regulatory affairs to computing power, GPU computing. Everything is hosted into a virtual private cloud into Amazon Web Services. And thanks to a very powerful methodology that we have developed, we aim to be able to create very quickly digital assets that will fit our customers' requirements and the overall requirements of our business. This department has already created on-the-shelf digital asset. We build it as a kit of fundamental technology brick. This will aims to allow us to recreate and reinstantiate very quickly with a short time to market a specific instance of another solution. And talking about solution, we already have 6 to propose, and those solutions are through our methodology built with our technical fundamental brick. We also contribute to the aura of PLG through webinaries and scientific communications.
Thank you, Florian. So now can you explain us a little bit what is really generative AI? What do we speak about?
Yes, of course. I will firstly go through a generic presentation on what is artificial intelligence. The aim of this first part is just for all of us to have like a quite similar level of knowledge about artificial intelligence before we can go through some specific use case in regulatory affairs. So in artificial intelligence, we have both words. So let's split the concept. We have on one part the term of artificial. And to make a very simple definition, artificial is something not natural. It's not a natural element, or it can be defined as made or crafted by human. And in the context of computer science, artificial just means something we programmed. On the other part, we have the term of intelligence, and that's where it became a little bit trickier, because intelligence is not a very easy concept to define. Depending on the scope, depending on some bias, you can have a lot of definition of intelligence. You can define intelligence as an IQ test. For some people, IQ test is the reflection of intelligence. But for other people, it's just a way to know if you can fit in an educational model. You can have like signals of intelligence. If you have a higher degree, a master or a PhD, it can be the sign of intelligence, and not for everyone. If you are more into biology, intelligence was defined by Darwin as the ability to survive from generation to generation. If you are a physicist, intelligence can also be so as the maintenance of your own entropy. If you work into psychology, the psychologist agrees that intelligence is a 8-spectrum field. So it's very complex to define. If we want to reduce this complexity and have a more holistic concept, we can set it as the human behavior. And when unifying those terms of artificial intelligence, we can agree that it could be interpreted as programmed mimetic human behavior. So all the aim of artificial intelligence as we hear it and as the trend is just to create some program mimetic human behavior with computer. You can go to the next slide. So a little focus about generative AI, who has a huge hype last months and last years. Generative AI is a specific scope of AI. Artificial intelligence is all the concept about this human mimetic behavior. If you go a little bit deeper, you start to enter the field of computer science, where we spoke more about machine learning. Machine learning is really the field of science that undertake research about this mimetic behavior. If you go a step deeper into machine learning, you can split the approach from more mathematical deterministic approach and with non-deterministic approach, who are casually defined as deep neural network. It's a way to build machine learning application. And inside this DNN field, you have Gen AI, who is a specific architecture of neural network that allows to generate content. And inside the generative AI, you have the buzzword hyper trendy of large language model, who are a specific instance, a way to create generative AI. But generative AI content can be a lot of things, much more than just large language models. And in fact, the really AI model, the really network part of an AI model, it's not the biggest part of an AI solution. You have in front of that a big work to do about the pre-processing, how to understand a context of data and a context of instruction based on even could be user input, could be automated data from a process pipe, but you get a payload of input that you first have to pre-process. And it's a huge amount of work to well refine this pre-processing to give it as ingestion to the AI model and the generative AI model. And after that, you have exactly the same amount of work to post-process the data. The raw data coming from an AI model are not very easy to use as it for end user point of view. even the chatbot you use, even the system everybody is using generative AI and large language model. And what you get as a result is really a fine post-process of the data that are generated by the AI model. And in the term of the field of application you can have from generative AI, here also you can have a huge spectrum of application. You can create image to image generative AI. So you give the model a payload of data coming from an image, and by using his specific configuration, you can generate a new image. This could be useful in application that we call super resolution, or how to enhance the resolution of an image. And of course, in the life science context, you can usefully benefit from it in a medical image super resolution. You can also have the text to image. So from a prompt of instruction, you can generate as a derivative generative content some image. It can be very useful into drug discovery and bioinformatics to visualize protein folding and those kind of application. You can, on the other way, have image to text. You can use, for instance, into medical diagnostic from medical imaging to determine some disease. And the most common and the most trendy is the text-to-text application. You can use it in a business application in life science for translation, very useful for translation, and also for medical writing. So you can go from raw data to natural language content generation. So why is it such a hype on large language model and large language model retrieval augmented generative system? So RAG stands for retrieval augmented generative system. It's the capability to retrieve and extract data from unstructured text. This hype is very weird because there is almost nothing new in the fundamental technology about it. The first LLM approach was made by Google Brain Lab in 2017. And in terms of digital, it's huge. It's a long time in digital, 7 years. And even into the RAG application, it's even older because the first publication about it was made by IBM Watson in 2011. So the hype comes from not the fundamental way you build it, but from some key evolution. We had some recent key evolution in the algorithmic part of the process of large language models. You have the dense passage retrieval. It's a new approach. It's an improvement of some processing part, and it's a little bit less than 4 years old. The biggest improvement was the empowerment about computational power. You have today 3 times more computational power for the same amount of space that you had in 2020, thanks to companies like NVIDIA, who made huge research about building specific chips to be able to train and proceed to inference for deep neural network application. And that's really the biggest improvement. Thanks to the empowerment of computational and power and algorithmic part of the process, scientists and developers were able to create bigger model. And this bigger model were able to ingest bigger knowledge content. And that's the positive side effect you are seeing now, the kind of switch you had the 2 last years about the capability of large language models, of generative content, is made by this size of model and the content of knowledge that could be ingested. This is just the beginning. If you take a little look at the hype cycle from Gartner, we are not even close to the peak of the hype. So the next 5 to 7 years will bring us a new bunch of disruptive content about generative AI. So be prepared for new disruption. So let's go really in depth, very in the tech, about how LLM RAG activity is made. It's important, I think, to make a little part of presentation about it, because it will show you that it's not only about the model itself. It's really a bigger architectural approach. The way you architecture AI and generative AI solution is the key for a successful solution. So let's take, for instance, that I have a document about any guidelines in regulatory affairs, and I want my system to proceed to a summary. So the first thing I have to make is to be able to process the content of the file. So I have to convert it into raw text. Here you already have a first architectural choice to make. How can I extract text from a file? It's a PDF, it could be in Word, it could be even into a web page, but you have to be able to transform it into computational raw text. From this raw text, you have to split it into chunks. So you have to cut it into smaller parts. Here again, you have a lot of parameters, of combination of parameters and architectural choice you have to make to improve the capability of your model. Every chunk is transformed into what we call a tensor. Just keep in mind, a tensor is a mathematical object. So you have here a database of mathematical objects who represent the content, the knowledge content of your file. In parallel, you write a query. Make me a summary, find me insights. What is the latest release date of this regulatory guideline? Whatever you want. In the same way, your model will transform this query into a tensor the same way. It has to be the same model that transforms text to tensor. What's very nice about mathematical objects is that you can play it with it. You can compare mathematical objects. You can measure distance between vectors. And that's exactly what's the first part of your RAG activity. It's to extract the chunks according to your query. So the RAG itself, the retrieval activity, is taking your query as a mathematical object and search in your database for objects with the same shape. And it will extract several chunks, so not the full content of the document, but just several chunks that will represent the best your query. After that, you pack your query and your chunks, and you make a context windows. Here, a lot of parameters to take in account. The type of model you will use gives some limitation about the size of the context. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but you measure the size of your context windows in terms of token. Token is just a number of characters. So you have to be very precise in the way you create your context windows to feed it to your large language model. Your large language model is built from a specific model architecture. You have a lot of different architecture and a very huge amount of variation of the size, the shapes, and so on, and the set of data that were used to initially train it. Those two parameters gives you the power of your large language model. So your model will ingest the query, and the model is just basically a big statistical machine that will just identify the next best word to satisfy your input. Your input, your query, and your chunk. The large language model is a statistical selector of what should be the next best word. He selects one, and he repasses his previous answer again into the model. So from loop to loop, it loops and selects every time the next best word. Here you can also have a lot of parameters. should I take only the best word? Models like OpenAI ChatGPT makes you a set of answers. When you go deep into the programmation level, actually you can receive like 3 to 5 different answers. It's just the randomness of the selection of the next word, and you have to post-process it to select the best answer. And until you have like a termination signal, he will just continue to complete the return result. Once the ended signal is done, is just forward the full content of his response. And after that, you have to make some curation. AI solution provider take through the AI Act, for example, some responsibilities about the content that their own model will return to a user. So you have to filter it to be sure you don't introduce bias inside the response, just to be sure it's if you are creating a large language model for corporate content, you have to be sure that it doesn't violate the corporate policies. So this is the responsibility of the AI builder to be sure the response is curated before return to the user. And only at the end, after that, the result is returned. So for all of this, who was very interesting, but could be a little bit complex, there is some key point to remember. First one is AI, generative AI and large language model is nothing new. It's just a big improvement from the last years. The hype now for the performance of a large language model is due to computational and algorithmic improvement. Maybe the most important thing to remember is that a generative AI solution, it's not only the model. You can not say we have a model, we have a solution. It's a full pipe of data processing. It's a full development activities to coat the AI model with something usable. There is a lot of possibility to mess a solution. As previously seen on the previous slide, each step of the pipe has a huge amount of parameters to take in account to be sure to set up precisely that to be sure they are not drifting in time. So it's very easy to mess up the solution. Error propagation is also something to take in account because it's an automation pipe. There is no human validation in between. So each time component in your architecture is creating error, the error is propagating and enhancing through the next pipes. Going from a very generative AI system to what can be used and useful in a business application is the most difficult part. With the latest release of AI managed services inside cloud computing infrastructure, it's like very easy to set up a generative AI system. Actually, in less than 10 minutes, you can build a large language model infrastructure with an attached knowledge base, with a vector database. It really takes you 10 minutes. But it's the zero-shot foundation model. It can be used for natural all-day conversation. But as soon as you will ask him for specific business knowledge application, he will not reach a level of efficiency and confidence that you can use in production. And it's true for generative system, but it's true for every AI and machine learning application. Data is always the key. If you have good structured in an enough amount data, you will enhance your chance to create a good AI solution. If you have very poor data quality, poor data amount, you should first work on your data before trying to create AI solutions. Let's talk a little bit about business. How is the AI business actually be structured? you have like a switch between the free and open source world and the paid licensing world. The free and open source world is the most technical part. It's the one who are really creating the new models. They are called Meta, Google, MIT, Stanford. Those are the entities, the GAFAM and the top university who have enough knowledge, enough resources to create new architecture, new way to build a generative AI system. Just on top of that, you have the first layer integrator. Those are foundations, mostly foundation, and they aim to make the use easy. Hugging Face is a very good example. It's like the big library that allows you with a very few lines of code to download and interact with those new generative AI system. And when you go from the generic model to the specific model, you switch from the free open source world to the paying licensing world. And so here you have the first layer integrator who try to use private data they gather to create specific generative AI system. And when you reach a level of efficiency for a very specific business application field, you can start to enter the business world, try to sell it. And on top of that, you have, of course, the second integrator. Those are the software provider, the software editors who integrate those specific models trained on private data into their solutions. If you can go to the next slide. Here is just some funny metrics that I wanted to share with you. ChatGPT has 175 trillions of parameters. It's already a big model, but it's not the bigger model, the biggest model. The biggest model is indeed the NVIDIA Megatron tuning model, who has 530 trillions of parameters. It's a tremendous amount of parameters, and those kind of model are probably the next generation of large language model in generative AI. Training a model to make it efficient can be a very long pathway. Microsoft started to train his AI model, not specifically large language models, but more generic AI model. And since 2040, those models are still training every day to improve them. When we come to training, computational capability is also a key. And the most effective way to train AI and generative AI system is to use cloud capabilities, because they are very big. For instance, if you take a 100 NVIDIA computing GPU, it has 16 teraflops of compute capabilities. When you're on computer, your little CPU on your laptop has only 0.4. So it's a huge gap, and it's improved the time of training. We talk a little bit about data. That data is key. And nowadays, the full Earth produce every day 330 million of terabytes of data. It can be your car, it can be your phone, it can be a windmill, it can be everything you want. It's a huge amount of data that are produced every day on Earth. So you start to see like a synchronization into the future trend of AI. We have in the latest years huge improvement into computing capability. We have improved also the way we produce data. We produce more and more data every day. And when you mix both of this timeline synchronization with the latest revolution about generative AI and LLM, the trend of the curve of generative AI and AI system can peak very high in the next years. And the last metrics that I found very interesting is that Hugging Face, the foundation Hugging Face, hosts almost 2,000 models. So pretty sure you can find a model from which you can start to create your own application.
Thank you very much, Florian, for this rich introduction and learning about generative AI and large language models. We'll now try to see what value it can bring in regulatory affairs and, more generally speaking, in regulatory and compliance. So there are a few pillars of value. Do you want to comment them, Florian?
Yes, of course. We have built our digital factory into a set of 4 value streams. Those are the productivity, the non-quality reduction, linguistic and stylistic consistency, and the exploration of wide coverage of the cases. Those are for us, from what we analyze from our own business, the key point to take in account when we want to create a valuable stream from generative AI. And on another part, we have defined 5 technical fields where we want to investigate some digital asset building. Those are, of course, the synthetic data production. We don't necessarily have access to a huge amount of relevant data, and being able to generate some of them with generative system would be also a very valuable leverage to make more efficient model in the future. Translation is key also due to the fact of local regulatories. PLG is a company who is present in every part of the world, and we have to ensure some consistency into local regulation and being able to retranslate all local regulation into some more standard languages such as English is a way to streamline the information from local to global. User interaction is something important. We saw that we create on our one part some very fundamental technological brick that could be used like a Lego system to integrate into third-party application, but we also work into solutions. And user experience is a key for a successful solution. So it's a part we take in account. The 2 last points are the most trendy and mainstream technological field we want to address. It's everything we talked a little bit earlier about generate new content, making search. The RAG activity is very key for business application to be able to extract from unstructured content some insight. So those 5 technological field of application are for us mixed with our 4 value stream, a full package in our strategy.
So what do we see, what do we expect in the life science industry today? The consultancy organizations, market insights rank first the research and development and clinical applications to support the extraction of insights from large amounts of data in drug discovery application, clinical trial design optimization, or even a drafting of some documents. The second rank is a commercial one with content generation, design generation, and potentially personalization and optimization. Why not also monitoring contracts thanks to this type of tools? Then we have the manufacturing and quality to support standard operating procedure management assistance, automate some product quality reviews, for example, or identify quality events. And then we have some opportunities in regulatory affairs and operations with 3 main streams that we identified. The first one about information management, finding information in documents, data. The second one is about intelligence, mining regulatory intelligence, for example. And the third one about supporting the writing activities. But all these activities are not completely mature today. And it's still a large domain for research as well, where you can see that different countries, researchers in the world are working on different applications with some more focused on manufacturing, research and development, quality, clinical. So it's still an area of research. If we try to see what are the risks and costs of these new opportunities, we can see that for the first one, data processing automation or analyzing vast amounts of data in regulatory intelligence or safety, also safety signal, real-world data analysis, they will have maybe some lower risks and costs because we can see already some applications with some business context dependencies, for example, for specific product types in regulatory intelligence. For the most costly one and also risky ones is about the domain-specific models that Florian has spoken to you about, that require large amounts of data, and so data processing, pre-processing, and curation, where we can have more difficulties to gather this data and more technical complexity. So we see that there is a gradation from assisting existing businesses, empowering and enriching them, and also transforming the whole industry. The recurrent use cases that we are seeing and we are exploring with some of our customers and also internally are reflecting actually the three main lines. The first one about searching for documents and data in a large amount of documentation, extracting from these documents relevant data, for example, to comply with data standards, and we'll have a focus on IDMP in a few minutes. They could be also to automate or at least semi-automate some processes that involve many stakeholders, many tools today, such as in the labeling area, where also reuse content could be interesting to use with this type of systems. And we see more and more applications in combining mailing, regulatory intelligence, and not only regulatory, but product intelligence to be combined with market insights. This also leads to streamlining multiple data sources and also coming to interacting with health authorities, and we'll see that some of them are interested about LLMs, for example, and of course, reducing reliance on translation providers. This is just an example from the FDA perspective insight. They are actually exploring and developing some frameworks for LLMs for regulatory affairs. This is an example in the labeling space where they have decided, based on the challenges of the public LLMs, to propose a customized framework to ensure transparency, explainability, and security, a localized solution with linking the model output to the original text, which is very important for regulatory people. So they have built, as Florian has mentioned to you, a full framework with document processing, query processing, and the large language model with the user interface to try and ask questions in labeling documents with quite a good performance, but still as a research experiment. What about companies? Florian, you had an example to share with the health authority communication.
Yes, sure. We had a customer who came to us with what should be an easy topic. It was to take the emails coming from the health authorities and automatically using AI technology, NLP, RAG, classifiers, to extract some insights and metadata from this mail, and to automatically fill RIM with the content of the mail and flag some labels with the extracted insights. Nothing very complicated in the technological and architecture approach, but this comes with a huge bunch of side effects not related to the AI part itself. It comes with the side effect of, can the data be processed by a third-party infrastructure out of the customer network? Because if we build something, we have to host it into a cloud infrastructure to make it available at any time from any point. So what's the cybersecurity and safety part for this processor? Who should it be hosted? Is the customer IT in charge of maintaining it? So it's more about deployment process. Those questions came up. A second side effect was, how can we guarantee that our data processor will not have any data persistence when it comes to non-deterministic AI processor? So it's question about explainability and observability of the system, not really related to the processing itself. The third one, will health authorities accept generic mailbox? Because we have here a very pragmatic legal concern that our system should watch into the mailbox to detect when a new mail from health authority comes. And it appears that health authorities wants to have a person, a real physical person, as contact. And legally, a company cannot implement a watcher into a mailbox. It's against privacy policies. So we have here a very blocking problem only due to legal aspects and not technological aspects to how can we collect this mail. And the last one, who is, can we interact with a RIM provider in order for him to open us a door, a gate, to populate some data inside his RIM? So a big amount of side effects, not really related to the technology itself. But this is the real world of AI, generative AI solution implementation.
So we'll see now our use case, one of our use cases at PLG that you've been developing. I will just introduce the context that a lot of you certainly know, the IDMP standards implementation from the EMA in particular. And starting with analyzing what is the situation today for a company, what is the gap between the data today and the IDMP objective. We started from this gap analysis context, how to understand the gap between the data we have from several sources of documents, regulatory documents, to the IDMP data model. And we started, Florian, with SMPC documents.
Yes. So the idea we came up for the IDMP gap analyzer is made for from 4 main processor. The first one is to map the IDMP data model to create a version of data model that we can use into the rest of our application. We finally get into a lighter version of the IDMP because we understand that a lot of the spectrum of the data model can be consolidated from other data sources, from external data sources. So we only keep into the minimal IDMP model only the field of data that are really mandatory to recreate the full data model. This was a very complex task because the IDMP model, it's a huge model. It relies on 5 ISO norms. There is a lot of guidelines about how to create the IDMP model. You have some cross-references inside the data model. So building it was not an easy task, but we achieved a very lightweight IDMP data model. Second part is, how can we fill it? How can we fill this IDMP data model in his lightweight version from an open unstructured text such as SMPC PDF? And here we go into the LLM RAG experimentation, or can we find a model, tweak some parameters, play into with all the configuration available, in order to extract from this text all the insights that allow us to rebuild the minimal lightweight IDMP model. The third part after that is to curate the full model. There is some post-processing as we speak it a little bit earlier, and this part is really about rebuilding the full data model. So we connect to SPOR database, we use the MEDRA guidelines. If available, we also connect into the RIM system through the API. We use the ontology model of the IDMP, and the aim is just to fill the blanks. And the last one is to allow a user to interact with this IDMP model. So we create visualization. And here we goes into one of our 5 technical scope that we see earlier is the user interaction. Just having a flat view, like an Excel view of the IDMP is almost impossible. It's a deep nested model with a lot of internal cross-references. So having it in a flat view wouldn't benefit to the user. So we came up with a more graphical content with a dynamic view. You can expand it, you can reduce it, you can show only some part, enable some. So we have really a full framework of user interface and user interaction.
So here we have a, sorry, my computer is a bit, but now it's working.
Here is a little video of our current IDMP navigator. So it's on org chart model. You can interact with it in several ways. You can also validate the content because it's for now an important part for us that human experts will validate the content before the gap analyzer and the final matching. So you have to interact with this model in order to process to the full gap analyzer.
So this allows to streamline the data entry, data validation. And I think we are here today with the solution that we aim to create a cloud-based united federated data model. Maybe you can give us a little bit of insight into the scientific contribution that you have also made on this topic recently.
We have a very recent scientific contribution actually last week, and it's really the part about identifying the best system for the extraction. It's really on the second layer of the full solution. It's the extraction part. We came with an experiment about a combination between the 3 large language models that are available into our cloud infrastructure, combine them with 3 prompt engineering methodologies that will create 9 RAG combination. And the idea is, can we, with a 0 shot, so it means really foundation model out of the box, with only parameters tweaking and not tuning, can we, with this combination, achieve a level of efficiency comparable to the human golden standard extraction? So we confront human extraction against our 9 combination of extraction to see which one is the best. And the best combination will become part of our solution.
Thank you, Florian. We'll conclude on the key success factors and perspective to save time for the questions. You have understood that performance and accuracy is depending today on the use that you want to do with this type of tools. And so in this matter, we think, and Gartner also predicts that generative AI models that enterprise use will be specific to an industry, and this will necessitate data, and so maybe data sharing initiatives for fine-tuning this type of models. But to optimize them, we can also explore the prompt engineering, how to design the questions, and also to reinforce learning from human feedback. On the benefits, we know that we have to go there because it's really the trend. But we have insight from the EMA that say that, of course, in our domain, a human review will be needed before any regulatory submission. So we have to have a human in the loop, and also according to the concept of human oversight by the EU AI Act. So there could be some gains from automation, but of course we have to assess the volume that brings this gain and to manage the associated risks, to adapt the operating models, and to create the culture, as it's really a huge change. In terms of data security, one point, Florian, to mention?
Yes, this part is something very important when deploying generative AI solution, is that you have several scope of cybersecurity to take in account. You have your data, you have the model itself, you have to understand how it works and provide enough guardian of data security. You have the cloud infrastructure itself to take in account. And if you are using a third-part large language model or whatever generative AI system you use, please read the end user license agreement. It's very important to know what they allow themselves to do in terms of data usage and data security.
So what you allow them to do then.
Yes,
and so scaling seems quite complex.
Yes, scaling a generative AI solution is really a pitfall pathway. Even if you manage to create a wonderful generative AI lab prototype, if you want to achieve an accessible digital solution with a high technology readiness level value, you have to go through cloud deployment. And each step of defining your cloud infrastructure, from the AI model training and deployment to the data infrastructure model population and management and backups, and to every aspect of your cloud solution, comes with a lot of constraints. And it's not just one constraint per stage or step. It's every constraint at every time with every other part of your architecture. So it's really a hyper-dense environment of constraints about observability, maintenance, security, ethical consideration, legal consideration, cloud architecture, strategy, and scaling. So everything is just very dense and should be managed at the same time.
And so as perspectives, we know that traditional AI models will continue, and with that generative AI can bring some additional opportunities to produce insights, to automate some documentation, at least first drafts, and leading to a change in the skill set, certainly, of the regulatory affairs of tomorrow. While keeping in mind that we have to reconcile these new big energy-consuming technologies with the twin transition and with the environmental impacts to be integrated, as we know it's now today. It's really energy-consuming technology. So now it's time for question and answers. If you have 5 minutes to stay with us.
So Gabriel and Florian, thank you very much for this very insightful presentation. We learned a lot during this hour. We do have a question coming from the audience. The question is the following: how can AI help in computer system validation, and what solutions are already in the market that support this? Do you have information about computer system validation and AI?
Yeah. I don't know exactly what could be the solution, but what I can say is, if you have a description of a computing system, and you have a model that will be able to define test set to understand test results, it's basically the same foundation technology, is understanding text to generate new text. So you can, for example, large language model are fully capable to generate code. So you can use a large language model to generate test code to test code. So you can have like a closed loop of testing using generative large language models. If you are more on the part of the compliance between your computational requirements against guideline and regulatory, you can use a full stack of RAG and text understanding with specific fine-tuned model, but you can ensure that every part of your computed system design and requirement fits with the requirements and the guidelines. That's in the concept and the approach. There's nothing very complicated about it. The complication will be in finding enough data to train and fine-tune a model in order to achieve a high level of efficiency. That's the same issue is applicable for all business contexts, is enough data to reach efficiency.
And today on the market, we have seen mainly workflow tools to manage computer system validation, to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You shared a lot of information during the presentation. That was really, really great. In your view, what is the most mature application of generative AI in the pharmaceutical industry today?
So what we are seeing in terms of tools that are provided by vendors in particular, so with a first level of validation, is really the regulatory and product intelligence application, with the capacity to extract data from various databases, from the health authorities, from the tools that provide already regulatory intelligence. So combining these technologies with a nice user interface for different business applications is already seen, or for example, to support trial design with very specific questions on the design, on the patient recruitment criteria, for example. So these tools, as they rely on mostly public or already available data, we can find some on the market with existing business models. The next ones that are coming are the tool to support generating first versions of documents, for example, in the pharmacovigilance area or the clinical. They can, the tools that the functions and the documents they can scope with today are actually related to the amount of data they have been using to train their models, of course. And so usually they rely on partnerships with big pharma, for instance, to be able to provide this kind of solutions.
Thank you, Gabrielle. I think there is no further questions from the audience. So I would like to thank you again very much for this great presentation. Again, the webinar is recorded, available on demand. You can connect directly with Gabrielle and Florian for further interactions. PLG will be very happy to support you on your projects, and we'll be very happy to bring our knowledge of generative AI to bring value to your organizations. Please stay tuned to PLG website and our LinkedIn and social media, where we will communicate our upcoming webinars. More topics will be shared very soon. Again, thank you very much for spending the hour with you. Thank you so much, Gabrielle and Florian. And I wish everyone a very nice rest of the day.
Thank you all, and feel free to reach. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.